Okay, in this tutorial, this is where I'm going to show you how to make the little rose that you would put on the top of the lid. And then this is the little rose, and I put a little flower bead on it. And I will show you how I'm going to make that. So this tutorial will be how to make the rose. In the previous two tutorials, I showed you how to make the bottom part, which is this little bottom part here. And I'll have a link to that in the description box below. And also, if you want to click on the iCard in the corner, you can click on that and go directly to that tutorial. And then in the next tutorial, after that, I show you how to make the lid. And I will have a link to the lid tutorial in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get started to learn how to make this cute little rose that you can put on the lid. So to begin, we are going to use the same crochet thread that I used in the previous tutorials. This is the number 10. Okay, so to begin, we're going to begin with a slip knot. And we're going to chain 43. And we're going to chain 43 chains. I'll go ahead and pause the video while I make 43 chains, and when I have my 43 chains, I will meet you back here. Okay, so I just completed making 43 chains. So now what we're going to do is we're going to skip the first two chains that are closest to the crochet hook, and we're going to start with a single crochet into that third chain from the hook, and then you're going to chain 2, skip one chain, and then do a single crochet into the next one, and then chain 2, and then you're going to skip the next chain and you're going to do a single crochet into the next one. Then chain 2, skip the next chain, and then single crochet into the next one, and then chain 2, and then you're going to skip this first chain, and then you're going to do a single crochet into the next chain, and then chain 2, and then skip this next chain, and then do a single crochet into the next one, and then chain 2 again, skip this first chain, and then single crochet into the next one, chain 2, and then we're going to skip this chain and single crochet into the next one. And then chain 2, 1, 2, skip this chain and single crochet into the next one. We're going to do that all the way across. 1, 2, then we're going to chain 2 again, skip the next chain and do a single crochet into the next chain after that one, chain 2, skip this chain and do a single crochet into the next one, chain 2, skip this chain, do a single crochet into the next one, and you're going to do that all the way across until we get to the end. So I'll go ahead and continue that while the camera's on pause, and when I'm at the end of the row, I'll meet you back here. So I'm back, and I'm almost done with this first row. So you can see I have 2 more chains here, so I'm going to do 2 chains, skip this next one, and do a single crochet into the last chain. So that completes row 1. So for row 2, let's go ahead and chain 2, turn our work, and you can see where we did those chain 2 spaces. We have that little bit of a gap there that we're going to be working into those chain 2 spaces. So this first chain 2 space, we're going to do 5 double crochets, because that first chain 2 is going to count as a stitch, so we're going to do 5 double crochets here. So that will be a total of 6 when you count that first chain 2. That's the second double crochet, 3, 4, 5. So into this chain 2 space that we just did 5 double crochets, and we started with the chain 2. Since we're counting that as a stitch, that's going to be 6 stitches there. And then the next chain 2 space right here, because in between we did a single crochet, so that's a single crochet. So the next chain 2 space, insert your hook and just do a slip stitch. And then you'll see the next chain 2 space, we're going to do 6 double crochets into that chain 2 space. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, now you're skipping the single crochet here, and you're going to work into the chain 2 space. You're just going to insert the hook into that chain 2 space, pull up a loop, and then just pull it right through because we're doing a slip stitch there. And then in the next chain 2 space, we're going to do 6 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're skipping that single crochet. And as a matter of fact, in this row, we're not going to work into the single crochets at all. We're going to be working only into the chain 2 spaces. So we're going to insert our hook into that chain 2 space and do a slip stitch. And then into the next chain 2 space, we're going to do 6 double crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then find your next chain 2 space and do a slip stitch into there. And then find the next chain 2 space and do 6 double crochets. 3, 4, 5, and that's 6. And then I'm going to do a slip stitch into the next chain 2 space, and then 6 double crochets into the next chain 2 space, because we're skipping all of the single crochets. We're only working into the chain 2 spaces here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that was 6 double crochets all into the chain 2 space, and then we find the next chain 2 space and do a slip stitch. And all of these little shells here are our petals. Okay, so now the next chain 2 space we will do 6 double crochets. 4, 5, 6. Alright, and then do a slip stitch into the next chain 2 space. And you're just going to do that all the way across, so just keep working till you get to the end of the round, or I'll meet you back here when I'm just about to finish this round. So we're just basically doing the 6 double crochets, slip stitch into the next chain 2 space, 6 double crochets into the chain 2 space, and then slip stitch, working only into the chain 2 spaces. And then when I'm almost done, I'll meet you back here. So I'm going to put it on pause until I finish. Okay, so okay, so while I had it on pause, I continued to work my petals for my rose, and I just did the 6 double crochets into that chain 2 space. You can see this next stitch next to it is the single crochet, and we're skipping those. So we have one more chain 2 space, so we just do a slip stitch into that last one of this round. And then right here at that edge there, we'll just go ahead and do a slip stitch right into there. And then that completes our round. And you can kind of see it wants to curve into a circle shape, and that's fine because we're going to roll it up as a little rose here. So let's go ahead and cut the yarn, or crochet thread in this case. And for those of you who are new to crochet and maybe you've never made a rose embellishment before, I will do a separate tutorial where I make this with yarn. That way you can see the detail better because it'll be bigger and thicker than the crochet thread. So I will definitely do one that focuses on every single stitch. I won't skip ahead or anything when I make it or pause the video like I did in this one. So for anyone that's new to crochet, I will have that tutorial for you. I will have a link in the description box below once I create that as well. And I will also have an iCard in the corner if you want to click in the upper right hand corner once I create that. So definitely, if you are new to crochet, I wanted to make sure that I do have a tutorial that's easier for you to follow along, especially if you've never made the rows before. So now that we finished that, let me go ahead and put my hook back into my loop, and I'm going to pull that through to fasten off. And now all you need to do is just kind of roll up your little petals here. So you want to, as you roll it, you want to bring this thread downward because we're going to use that to connect it together. And just kind of roll it up. Bring that thread down. And you want to make sure that your bottom part is kind of flat on the bottom. Okay? You don't want it to be too cone shaped. You want to make sure that it's flat to make sure you rolled it correctly. So now you can see where this petal is right here, and you want to make sure the threads are downward because you can use those to kind of sew them together, the petals. So now I'm going to overlap that, and then I'm going to need to thread a crochet needle to sew the ends in, but this is going to unravel on me. So what I do is I make sure I have 2 of the crochet darning needles available and ready, and then I just poke that through that petal right there to hold it in place while I thread up the other one to sew those loose tails in. Let's go ahead and do that. So now what you want to do is kind of just make sure that you kind of sew through the bottom flat edges here to kind of connect all the petals so it doesn't unravel. Just go back and forth across the bottom, sewing it all together, all those layers. And of course you can always cut the tails a little bit longer if you want to use that to sew onto, you know, the lid, in this case, of our little trinket box, or if you want to use it for something else. You know, no worries, if you didn't cut the tails long enough, you can always cut another piece of thread to sew it on. Okay, so now I'm going to get that other one. Sew that through. Here's a little bit. Okay, and then you can make sure that the 2 tails are kind of close together, and you can just tie those a couple times. Alright, now, like I said, if you had the longer tails, you could leave them on there so you could sew it on. I did cut them a little short, so I'll just go ahead and cut these and when somebody else sew it on, and I'll show you how to do that. And you don't need to cut it too close because you don't want it to unravel on you, because you're going to sew it on anyways. You won't see those little threads. So now, I did have this cute little bead that's kind of pearlized. It's a white pearlized bead. But it looks like the shape of a flower. So I thought that was just too cute. So I'm going to use that right in the center. I'm going to sew that in. And then that would be what I'd put on top of my little lid. Of course, you can use any type of beads or buttons that you have. You know, I even have like this little button has some color in it. I mean, you can put any kind of bead you like. So now that I have that sewn together, I can take that needle out that was holding it in place. And then you would just place your little bead or button or little tiny bead in there, and then you would just sew that on. And now that we have that done, we're ready to starch our little trinket box. So in the next tutorial, I will show you how to do that. We'll need to starch the bottom and the lid. You don't really need to starch the rows at all. You can if you want, but you really don't need to. So I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And I want to thank you for watching today. And like I said, after I do the next tutorial where I'm going to show you where I starch everything, I will go ahead and link them all together with a playlist, so that way you can find all the tutorials if you want to watch them all together or, individually. And again for watching, and have a great day.